Welcome to another day in the Matrix, waters above crypto. I'm sending you all love and high vibrations. Today's video is going to be an update and follow-up from my last video I released titled Year of the Tiger Decoded. Lately, I've been having a lot of people reach out to me asking if they could use Gematria for stocks and Forex. So to start out today's video, I'm going to share a Gematria decode to show how this code works on one of the top large cap tech stocks. Then, of course, I'll move into the cryptocurrency technical analysis to wrap up today's video. And also, just a reminder, the new month has started on Patreon. If you've been patiently waiting to join, I greatly appreciate your support. You can join by visiting patreon.com/watersabove to sign up for the Mastermind Community membership and get instant access to my exclusive Patreon posts, all of my weekly Red Pill episodes, my technical analysis podcasts, our community Discord group chat. You'll get live updates to see what I'm personally buying and selling, and you'll also unlock the biggest discounts on my courses. That's at patreon.com/watersabove. Again, I greatly appreciate all of your support. So if you're new here, we do cryptocurrency technical analysis and combine it with Gematria, numerology, and astrology to understand these markets. Feel free to subscribe and turn on the bell notification to stay updated on when new videos come out. And make sure to give this video a like and share this channel with other conscious beings to help grow this community. And for those of you that want to learn how to do technical analysis and combine it with Gematria, you can join my Mastermind course. The link to my website can be found in the description box of this video and in the pinned comment below for access to the Mastermind course. And also in the pinned comment below will be the Patreon information if you wanted to find that a little bit easier. And with that being said, let's take the red pill. So we're going to be starting out today's video talking about a little bit of what happened on February 2nd, the 22222 date. Very important date, and we definitely noticed volatility in the crypto market, mostly due to Bitcoin. You could see this big candle here. The red candle was the date of February 2nd. Noticeable volatility for sure. But what I wanted to point out was the fact that it was a 4.6% candle. So if you look up here and then just pause the video, when I hover over the candle, you're going to see it says minus 4.67%. And this 46 number has been quite a repeatable number since Bitcoin has had our yearly close. And I know the reason why for this, and it's amazing to start seeing it show up on important dates like this. So the fact that this candle was minus 4.6% on a key date of February 2nd, 2022, this number is coming back to Satoshi Nakamoto's birthday. So if you guys remember, the year of 2021 closed for Bitcoin at $46,000, whilst Satoshi Nakamoto was 46 years old. And then, of course, on this date, we have a minus 4.6% candle. So I just wanted to point that out because I thought it was pretty funny how that particular day we got that exact percentage drop. It's quite amazing how this shows up. So you gotta love the numbers. Also, yesterday, Facebook and Metaverse got crucified. This was one of the biggest single day drops I've ever seen in a stock. I mean, this gap is huge. It's a bigger drop that we've seen in this single day than back in the C-word crash. So this is really interesting how this all happened. They say that it had to do with the earnings report that came out on the 2nd. So again, there was an earnings report that happened on February 2nd. I'm going to go ahead and click this right here, and we're going to be able to see some of the data. So you can see date 2 February 22. And this is where the numbers get absolutely obvious. So for one, we have the 441, which is the mirror of 144. And one of the places that I've shown this number is in this Mark of the Beast code. And of course, this is all tied together because this is what Metaverse and the virtual reality and all of the NFTs and the QR codes and all of this stuff is headed towards this direction. So with that being said, it's amazing how they have this 441 number, but that was just a side note. What's more important here is this 33. So revenue reported at 33 billion, and this was obvious because the date of February 2nd was the 33rd day of the year, and we were talking about this number 33 at length in my last video. So, of course, this is the numbers we're getting. So With that being said, we also have this 36, the 3.6, and that's coming back to Metaverse. I'm going to show you that really quickly in the code. And we have that in the full reduction cipher, and I really like using this cipher predominantly when I'm doing my decodes. So this 36 connection to the Metaverse and the earnings, and of course this creating a huge move in the price. So we'll get to the decode regarding the price percentages and the exact price targets and how I'm analyzing that. But for now, we're just going to take what they told us, which is the earnings report. And they also mentioned that there's less subscribers on Facebook now, which makes sense because, I mean, it's a dying platform anyways. Get off of Facebook if you're on it. I mean, come on now. Anywho, this number decode is amazing how it's all playing itself into the exoteric reason why there was a huge dump in Facebook. They told us it was because of the earnings report, right? And these 33s and 36s, I mean, remember what I told you guys in a couple of my videos last month. This 36 is perceived as 3 sixes, which is the 666, which comes back to carbon, 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons, which has to deal with the physical realm. It's the matrix, okay? So anyways, with that being said, I am just blown away by this volatility that we see in Meta. Also, the Meta logo is very important, the Mobius strip. We'll get to that in future videos, but with that being said, the big red flag here with Metaverse is this 108, because the 108 has to deal with spiritual completion, and that's really the idea they're pushing here. This virtual reality realm that they're pushing on humanity is part of the big picture. It's part of Agenda 2030, and one of the things that I think is amazing about UN Agenda 2030 is we're going to see we have that 36 and that 35, okay? Notice the 36 and the 35, right back to Metaverse. 36, 35 in the same ciphers. And again, that 3, 5 could be perceived as 3 5s, 5, 5, 5. Start learning a little bit more about the meaning of the numbers and you start seeing how this all comes together. That reduces down to 8, right? Metaverse, the logo is the 8. The torus field. So this is amazing how this is all coming to play, but one of the things that I think is interesting here when you start looking at the actual price movement and the volatility is if we go from the day of the 2nd, before the earnings report really hit and started to, make its way through the price action of Facebook. If we go from that level down to the daily close, which you can see was right there yesterday, this full move was 27%. Now, this 27% is not weird because 27 comes back to Jupiter in Gematria. This 27 and this day of the 3rd, yesterday, was a Thursday or Thorsday or Jueves, which is the day of Jupiter, okay? So, classic. This 27% drop on the day of Thursday, the day of Jupiter, which Thursday ties to Jupiter, Jupiter 27 in Chaldean. It also equals 36 in the same cipher as Metaverse. So we see the code here. We see how it's playing through. So with today being the 4th, the 2/4 date, and this is really important because the zodiac logo of Jupiter is the 24, and I brought this up in the past. I would not be surprised if Facebook today trades into $240. Again, it is dropping a little bit in the pre-market. It's just I think the stock market opens in about 30 minutes by the time this video comes out. I believe the stock market will probably be open. But with that being said, it would be so hilarious if we were to see Meta pop up to 240, again, coming back to the 24 code, like today being 24, and the zodiac logo of Jupiter being 24, tying back into everything we were talking about with Metaverse. And then if it was to hit that $240 price target and start to roll over, that would kind of be where I would anticipating this move going. So again, let me show you right now the RSI is at 24. So You can't make this up, man. It's so coded in. It's like even in the indicators, it's coded in. It's absolutely beautiful. So the 27% drop again, and then this all happening leading into the 2-4 date, 24 zodiac logo of Jupiter. Facebook's trading around $240 per share. RSI is at 24 on the 2-4 date. I mean, it's quite beautiful how this all works. So I hope this helps people see how this Gematria code can be used for anything. You know, that was really the point of this, not only to show you how it could be used for stocks, but it could really be used for anything. It's just decoding. You know, you can do decoding without Gematria. You can just be able to look at symbols and start to break down the meaning of the symbols. You could start getting into alchemy and astrology and start learning all of that stuff. And that is absolutely pivotal in our journey towards becoming better decoders. You can start to use tarot and periodic table like Logan does over at Decode Your Reality. Go ahead and check out his channel. He's an absolutely incredible decoder. And you know, I'm learning a lot from him as well with implementing these more, you know, esoteric principles. But when I'm doing my Gematria, I pretty much stick to the 4 base ciphers and I add in the Chaldean, with my number 1 priority being the Chaldean, my number 2 being English Ordinal, then full reduction as like a close, you know, tie for number 2. And then the reverse ciphers are like tertiary for me. But what's even more important is the prime numbers. When you start getting into the primes, you start really, you know, seeing deeper into how all these numbers connect, and you need that basis and that backbone of information and knowledge in order to decode. You can't just be plugging stuff into a decoding calculator and see the numbers tying together and that's it. You need to know the meaning behind everything. So anywho, with that being said, this information is actually all the stuff that I teach in my Mastermind course. I actually have a full-blown Gematria masterclass within that course and probably like 20 separate Gematria decoding videos. So again, anyone who becomes a patron of mine and joins the Mastermind community or the Trading Wolves membership over on patreon.com/watersabove, you'll get a 20% discount unlocked on my courses. And the Mastermind course is really where it dives deep into the Gematria and how to perceive the numbers and how to perceive like symbols and, you know, get deeper into what's going on here. And then you could apply this to not only crypto, but also stocks, also Forex, and everything else in life. You could decode sports. It's amazing how well this all works. And whether the great debate is it's being controlled by man or it's natural, doesn't really matter. It's a little bit of both, and that's kind of where I stand on all of this, and I find the beauty in that. There is things in life that man wants to be controlling over, and there's absolutely things in life that are organic and they just happen. They just are, and they're coded into us like DNA. It's on a cellular level, and these numbers and these letters are all part of our identity. And the more and more we see how this code is working, we start to relinquish this like stronghold into being so absolute. You know, you become so much more open-minded through learning Gematria, and that was what it did for me. I've spoken about this time and time again, how Gematria was like the biggest red pill. It was something that showed me that, wow, you could actually see and, you know, break down all of these things that are happening right in front of our face. And no one really has much rhyme or reason for why they're happening. For the first time, we could actually get some answers here. And that's the beauty of it all, to be able to see that there are answers and unsolved mysteries that could finally be fulfilled. And all it was needed was going back to the basis of all things, which are the logos, the symbols, and how those symbols are comprised of all of these things that we've been talking about on this channel. So anyways, I am really interested to see how this metaverse, is going to trade today. I'm not really going to pay too much attention to it, but again, I would not be surprised if we see that bump up into the, the 240 level today. If it doesn't really matter, because overall, what I think they're going to do is manipulate this down to the 888 fib, and the big reason behind that is because it's the 222 level, and that's by pulling a bearish fib from the breakout after the V-shaped recovery from the C-word crash a couple years ago up through the swing high, which is currently the all-time high, I believe, on Facebook. Doing that fib pull puts the 888 right at that level, and the fact that this traded below the 786, technically what we would suspect is this could potentially move down into the 888, and I would not be surprised if this happened around Pluto's return, because Pluto's return is on that 222 date. Again, this is all coming back to the 55s and what I was sharing with you guys in my last video. Definitely go check out my last video, because that Pluto's return connection to Satoshi Nakamoto and Queen Elizabeth and Platinum Jubilee, that all of that combined is amazing. And, you know, one of the things that I showed my patrons back, I believe it was like a week ago or so, I did a decode called, or it was basically a metaverse decode, and it had this symbology of the tiger eating the bull. And it's just so funny how we entered the year of the tiger, you know, about 4 days ago, and instantaneously Meta just takes a huge dump right down to these key levels. So remember, this is quite significant, and we have this 1/5 date coming up soon in the code. It's the 7th of February. Remember what I taught you guys. 2/7 is Jupiter, right? Let me show you real quick. So 27 comes back to Jupiter and Chaldean. That's the 2/7 date. And this date gives us the date numerology of 15, standard date numerology of 15. Okay. And that 15 comes back to Tiger. All right. And they showed us in that Metaverse commercial the tiger eating the bull or the ox. So that's amazing, how that's all coming to, you know, fruition. So perhaps that was the manipulation event to push it down so that the elites can buy up all that cheap, you know, Facebook stock and then push this thing back up. I mean, it would be pretty interesting, but it is Shemitah, and during Shemitah there's always, you know, random psyops and collapses in certain sectors and in certain companies. You know, the fact that Meta renamed, you know, Facebook renamed to Meta during Shemitah is not surprising. You know, this is absolutely by design, because it's the Talmudic Jews who are running all of this anyways, with the help of the Jesuit order. So side note on that, but let's move into the analysis. I do want to make today's video shorter than the other ones that we've been having. Quick thing to say though, stock market has been kind of okay. It's been recovering. We saw there was a noticeable bounce off of these key support levels for the Dow Jones. Dow Jones is really like correlated to Bitcoin's price action. And with that being said, Bitcoin is the energy of the crypto market. So whatever Bitcoin does, you see the move happen in the altcoins. So there's a correlation between the DXY, the US dollar currency index, and the indices. And I just use these three indices, the Dow Jones, S&P 500, and the NASDAQ, as my three to pay attention to, the NASDAQ being the most volatile. So because it's mostly tech sector. So the recovery on the NASDAQ hasn't been as great, but if you see the fib pull from the highs before the C-word crash down to the lows, it made it all the way up almost to the 3618 fib. I mean, that's dramatic. So it's just more volatile again because the tech sector had so much liquidity injected in it from the Federal Reserve through the whole year of 2020 and 2021. Now, with that being said, we're starting to see some of these tech stocks, especially the lower cap tech stocks, take a hit, right? So when they take a hit, I mean, you just have to anticipate the volatility in this particular indice. Anyways, with that being said, this recovery is it was very dramatic. And this is kind of the thing where I would definitely suspect lower highs, and this could be influential on the crypto market. But the crypto market is so volatile that even if the S&P 500 gets into a bull trap territory somewhere around 4,600 points to 4,700 points sometime by April and then rolls over, that would be indicative of a relief rally for the crypto market for sure. So with all things being said, the stock market has been on an absolute tear, and it's time for that to correct. Most of the altcoin market lately has been in bubble territory for a long time. So the fact that it's given up 80% of its gains across a lot of altcoins, that's also not weird. I mean, anyone who's been in this market for more than just a couple of years, you've seen this happen before. It's just kind of par for the course with the crypto market. So I just wanted to say that because we have been seeing major tech stocks, not only Facebook, but like Amazon, be down almost 8%. And, you know, look at that 2.7 right there. That these numbers are so obvious. The S&P closing yesterday at 111. The NASDAQ closing at 4.2% down into the trading day of February 4th, the 248. It's all in the code, guys. I bet you like US 30 is probably going to trade around minus 240 points for a majority of the day, by the way. It's all coded in. So pay attention to stuff like that because it helps people understand how this code is working. It's not just working for crypto. It's working for anything regarding money. And when you're learning about that, that's why I use the mythologies. That's why I go back to the moon. That's why I go back to the sun. Moon and sun, 111. Okay? So important, right? 37, 12 prime, coming back to the 12 zodiac, not counting the 13th, which I've been learning a lot more about lately since my conversations with Crystal Time. Can't wait to have an interview with her. So let's move into the analysis on Bitcoin. So there is a noticeable trend line going on right here. Noticeable resistance trend line. This is going off a majority of the closures. Of course, we had a little bit of an anomaly right here. This anomaly is normal just because of an interaction with the golden pocket. And you can see that multiple rejections. I mean, it was super noticeable around here before the bigger dump. And then lately, we've been getting multiple rejections. So this is pretty nice to see because the longer that it interacts with this trend line, eventually it's gonna pop. So one other thing to consider here with this trend line is we have the RSI with a noticeable trend line going off the highs back here of around 78, 80. And you can see we got a secondary touch point here, a breakthrough. And after this breakthrough and a little pop up, which made a newer high in the structure, you see that slightly higher high. Then we came back down and back tested the outside of the trend line, confirming a resistance as a new support. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say confirming until this pops above this level right here. So we would need to see RSI get above 42, which is not that. That would probably be moving into the end of this month anyways. And then I would suspect it getting gravitated towards the 50s. It just depends on how quick Bitcoin wants to move. You know, it typically does move pretty fast. Once it breaks out of these long-term resistance trend lines, I mean, let's see how long this has been going on for. 88 days. Oh, that's actually pretty interesting. I should have thought about that. So the all-time high date came in on the 10th officially. Let's see 88 days out. That's pretty important, guys. That would be the 6th. So that is important because that's the day of Platinum Jubilee. Holy shit. And this 88 number is pretty... I don't want to say it, but this guy... Of course, with the 72 and the 36, just like Bitcoin. But this guy, people say Heil and this guy's name. That's the HH. And H is the 8th letter, so the HH is the 88, and they wear it as back patches, these neo-Nazi guys. But I just think it's funny. That was one of the first times I saw that number being used normally, and nobody really knows the esoteric reason, but it's essentially the 88 is the two Mobius strips or the two torus fields. It's two infinity symbols. It's deep. It's definitely deep. But it was just so funny to think about that 88 right now. That's what you get when I'm freestyling these videos. A little bit of waters above comedy. So anyways, yeah, this 88 day is definitely interesting. And then moving into the 89 day, that would also be something that I keep in mind because I'm pretty sure Satoshi Nakamoto equals 89. Yeah, it does. And that 89 is the 24th prime number. And we know that 24 number is quite important because, again, like I was telling you, Jupiter, the zodiac logo is 24. And then the 181 is the 42nd prime, which is literally just the mirror of the 24. So 89 days out would be super interesting. Oh, and one other thing that I wanted to show you guys. This is really important. So if I go off a 69K to the upside all the way to the swing low right here of 33K, this is exactly 75 days and 52% down. And if we go to cryptocurrency, you're going to see 75, 52. So 75 days from all-time high to the swing low in the structure. You can see that right there, 75, and 52% down from all-time high to the wick, 52 in Chaldean cryptocurrency. So that's pretty amazing. Also, the flip of that would be the 25, and that's what we get with BTC, the ticker symbol, right? It's pretty amazing. I'm not saying that this is the low. Anything could happen on the full moon. We could even get a dip slightly lower, but I mean the 33K level, again 33, coming back to what we were talking about earlier, like with Facebook reporting $33 billion in earnings on the 33rd day of the year, February 2nd. Let me show you that real quick. I mean, we know this number is important, right? It's about transmutation. So with that being said, I would not be surprised, if that was the full swing high to swing low move down to around 33K. Again, this is a wick, so that means on every exchange it's going to be slightly different. This is why I like to use the index chart, because the index is just an aggregate of a majority of the exchanges. and it kind of like balances out a lot of the noise you get with leverage trading exchanges like Bybit and stuff like that. So with that being said, this is a good chart because it's the most accurate. And with that 75-day move minus 52%, I would not be surprised if that is the bottom. But that's not me trying to be bullish. That's me using the code. There's a difference there. I do know that 52% washout is pretty extreme, but we saw Bitcoin do it before over here. From swing high to swing low was 56%. Again, 56 coming back to BTC, the ticker symbol 56, and Society of Jesus, the Jesuit order, 56. So that moved down 52% from swing high to swing low. Again, the all-time high happening on April 14th, the 144 date. The 144 is really important in Bitcoin because as of May of 2020, Bitcoin started the halving event, which is 144 blocks mined per day. So we knew about that going back to around Satoshi's birthday in 2020. And ever since that event, Bitcoin went on a tear into the highs around 63K exactly on the date of April 14th, the 144 date. So we know that number is very, very powerful by the code. Again, biblically, we know the 144,000 chosen ones, but I've been seeing that they always like to invert everything. So there's a good and there's a bad within all things. Like Venus, for instance, has her Aphrodite stage where she's all about love. And then Venus also has her like, she's moody. She's moody. And that stage is where she goes into Lucifer, right? So she has this, everything has a balance. Everything has a duality in a sense. And then once you're aware and accepting of that duality, you step off the pillars and you start to see things from a deeper perspective. But with that being said, this 144 number is quite incredible, how it's tied into some of the things that I've shown in Judaism, particularly the mark of the beast. But with this TA right here, I think it's important to consider this trend line and also the fact that we're trading around the 236. Another thing to mention was if I go to this chart right here, which is the Mercury retrograde chart. So as of yesterday, Mercury is done. It's currently direct. So it was stationed in retrograde up until about, I believe it was like a day and a half ago, and currently it's direct. So with that being said, we've moved out of this red box territory, and I drew this sort of fake, like theoretical price action. And it's pretty interesting that we did come up into this yellow resistance line that I was anticipating us to move up into, but not get above. Remember I said in the last couple of videos, I was not anticipating a V-shaped recovery for Bitcoin. We would have got the V-shaped recovery if we started moving into 40 like a couple days ago. But now we're seeing a little bit of a rejection right at these wick lows that came in on January 10th. Again, that's the 1-1 date in the 222 year. So we knew that date was important, exactly coming down to that level that we recently just got rejected at. Now that we've moved out of this energy, what I'm anticipating is we actually come back down for a double bottom into the full moon. So the full moon is on the 15th, or I believe the 16th. And this tells me that we typically have a window about 5 days before up to 5 days after. So to be like conservative about this, I would say anywhere from like February 10th over to February like 21st. That would be a good window to suspect returns back to the lows, something around this window of time. And it doesn't really matter if we're a couple days early or not. It's just about the general direction. Typically we have microcycle tops around new moons, and then we have microcycle bottoms around full moons. I think that we're done with this correction, and the bigger reason why I feel like we're done is because the volume that came in on let me see if I can find like a Binance chart that might be able to be helpful, because Binance has some significant volume. Okay, Coinbase might help. So I'm just going to turn on this volume, and we could see that there was absorption. So on this bigger red volume day, a couple days later, we're seeing that there's equal buying volume on the lows. So this was the wick day, the day that we got the kind of like extreme fear in the market because Bitcoin went to 33K, but it ended up being a green day. And with that being said, that's absorption. So this tells me that this was all about the bigger coin holders, the bigger bag holders, the whales, if you want to call them, basically buying all the Bitcoin. So they're increasing their holdings, and these are long-term holders. So these aren't weak hands. And with that being said, we know a lot of these washouts have to deal with leverage, but with this huge volume spike here on the date of January 21st, and then the secondary large volume spike being on the day of the low, followed by, it being a positive day overall, which led to a short-term uptrend, that's absorption, and that's a good thing. That's bullish. So again, that's not me saying that this will be the absolute low just because of that one thing I mentioned, because we still have a full moon coming in, but because of the month of February typically having some positive price action overall, that would be what's anticipated. So potentially into the next maybe 2 days, that's about as bullish as we'll get, moving into that transition date of the 6th of February. And then as we get to the 7th of February, remember what I was telling you with the 2-7 and the connection back to Jupiter, I would anticipate this rolls over a little bit into the full moon with a window around the 10th to the 22nd. And I would suspect that the daily closure lows of about 35 is probably where we'll hold for daily closes. Can we see wicks back down to these levels? Absolutely. But I think that this is going to hold. We'll just have a nice double bottom or it'll look like a W pattern. So you could see this is the W and this is the neckline. And once we break out, I would suspect this breakout above the neckline into like 41, 42K before the end of this month. So I think this bounce is going to be pretty, significant. It'll be like this bounce over here. I don't know if it won't be this dramatic to new all-time highs, but it'll probably come up into the month of April, somewhere around like the 50s. So I'm anticipating it'll look something like this. If I was to turn everything off, you'll see what I mean. You see this big W? And this was a full moon, and this was a full moon. Same thing. Just a big W from full moon to full moon, and then continuation into the following new moon, which I think we had a black moon on February 1st, which was the start of Chinese New Year. So that means it kind of messes up the next 3 months of new moons. It's kind of an interesting thing how that affects everything astrologically. But anyways, point being was that this idea of not having a V-shaped recovery is still in the cards, in my opinion. Again, we are on the last trading day of the week for the stock market for Forex. So we could see bullish momentum into this weekend, especially since we've had a substantial sell-off up for like 80 days now. And then the fact of the 88 days off the highs coming in pretty soon, that could be something to consider. We don't know how that's going to go, but ultimately I think that it's safe to say that these coins, or majority of these coins, are into extremely oversold levels on RSI, and it's about time that we start to form a bottoming structure and have some breakout continuation to the upside. And that would be the month of March, really, where I would be anticipating that. So I'm actually going to leave it at that today, because it's just going to do what it does to Ethereum and XRP accordingly. I typically cover those charts. There's really no need to today, but I will be doing my next Red Pill episode over the weekend, probably releasing on Sunday. So again, anyone who joins the Patreon, the Mastermind Community membership, you'll be getting access to that weekly Red Pill podcast. Anyone who joins today, you'll be getting access to the last one I did. It was a pretty long episode. We went over a bunch of altcoins in that, and kind of just like I start off every podcast going into theory and a market wrap up for the week, really discussing how I'm feeling about the market. I'm always pushing a long-term investment mindset. I'm always trying to use the code and be very logical about how I'm analyzing this market. So again, I'll be releasing that episode over the weekend, and I always do the Ethereum and XRP analysis as part of that. And again, probably be wrapping up a little bit what happens into this weekly close for the DXY, the indices, and potentially a recap of what's going on with Facebook over there as it's continuing its crucifixion. So anyways, with that being said, I appreciate every single one of you, wishing you a beautiful rest of your day. And I might be catching some of you guys tonight on a live stream. Probably do the live stream hangout around 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Looking forward to chatting with you guys when that happens. Appreciate all of you. Much love.